December 6th, 2018. The Game Awards are on, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate releases in just a few hours. Naturally, rumors of the game's first DLC character being revealed at the event were spreading like wildfire the previous morning. Now, I had never watched the Game Awards prior, but that night I decided I would be among the first to see what the future of Smash Ultimate would hold. I fell asleep halfway through. The following morning, I woke up to dozens of headlines about the latest fighter revealed for Smash. Joker from Batman?
Link from Odyssey!
Huh? Turns out Joker was actually referring to the protagonist of a JRPG called Persona 5. And as soon as I heard the word JRPG, I immediately went back to bed. Before realizing it was a Friday and I had school in an hour. So, let's talk Persona 5. The game is going multi-platform this month, so now is as good a time as any to give my thoughts on this absolute beast. Now, I imagine that, like myself, many Nintendo fans were introduced to Persona 5 through Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. They say that first impressions are important, and man, did Joker leave an impression on me. Everything from Joker's infiltration of the Game Awards to his gameplay reveal being fully voiced and narrated by his teammates is flashy, thrilling, and in your face. And for the following years of Smash Ultimate's life, I never truly felt that any DLC character received the same amount of love and care as Joker. This is merely speculation on my part, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Mr. Sakurai Presents format was used for Hero Onward because Sakurai blew the DLC's marketing budget on Joker. The initial character reveal at the Game Awards had me intrigued, but the gameplay reveal in April was what truly sold me on Persona 5. It may have been a PlayStation exclusive JRPG for mature audiences, the bane of any Mario fan's existence, but I just had to know what made the game special enough to deserve such caring representation in Smash Ultimate. Unfortunately, I never had a PlayStation of my own, so I had to resort to watching a playthrough on YouTube. Yep, for a few months I was the Persona 5 fan who had never played the game. So, what were my first thoughts? Persona 5 wasn't the game I was expecting. The game starts out with a bombastic escape sequence in a bright casino, but the protagonist, codenamed Joker, is quickly detained and grossly abused by the police. Being heavily drugged and worse for wear, Joker must recall the events leading up to his arrest, and give his full account to Prosecutor Sae Nijima in order to avoid certain ruin. The majority of the game is spent in this flashback, where we learn that Joker was framed for abuse and put into probation under the supervision of a family friend, Sojiro Sakura. Forced into a new city and a new school, Joker must make alliances with like-minded peers who have similarly had their lives damaged by those with corrupt morals and desire. Hey, wait a minute! Persona 5 isn't a flashy RPG, it's a social sim with RPG elements! As it turns out, calling this game an RPG only tells half the story. Persona 5 combines elements of a traditional turn-based role-playing game with those of a social simulator, with the relationships you build with other characters in the real world giving you buffs in the RPG side of the game. The RPG elements come into play in the Metaverse, an alternate world where the distorted desires of an individual take the form of explorable dungeons known as palaces, which is a pretty funny coincidence if you ask me. These palaces are usually ruled by a powerful shadow, which represents the corrupt individual at their absolute worst. As you progress through the game, fellow students at your new school, Shujin Academy, will join you in the Metaverse. By being true to themselves and ripping off the mask they wear for the sake of society, they summon their other self, the Persona. Together, Joker and his peers form the Phantom Thieves, a vigilante group which uses the power of personas to change the heart of rotten adults which have gone unpunished by traditional law enforcement. Whew. I'm not going to do a deep dive into the themes and gameplay of Persona 5, but hopefully this overview gives you a good idea of what this game is all about. When I finally swallowed my pride and bought the game on my dad's PS4, it took me a long time to get used to the gameplay loop and how little the flashy presentation plays into the overall experience. But once I familiarized myself with the game, I was surprised by how engaging and intuitive everything feels. However, I suppose I should now address the elephant in the room, that being the title of the video. who wrote this game? An, a victim of grooming, is made the butt of several sexual jokes. Ryuji, a victim of physical abuse, is beaten senselessly by his friends after saving their lives. Your progress on relationships or confidants doesn't affect the main story, which leads characters to feel like they don't really grow throughout the game. And don't get me started on the dating mechanics. You're telling me when the coach dates a student he's evil, but when Joker's homeroom teacher does the same, people call her Kawamami? But, admittedly, when Persona 5 is written well, it is written well. The game's ability to visualize abstract concepts like desire, the heart, and the mask we wear has helped me cope with some of the worst moments of my life. From the style and flair that reeled me in to the everyday moments and struggles in Joker's life, I always felt like I was really in the shoes of the protagonist. And when everything came full circle, the payoff was so satisfying, even if it was a bit predictable. Persona 5 has some truly great highs, and only a fraction of the game isn't enjoyable. But the problem is, with a game that lasts 100 hours, a fraction can equal a dozen hours or more. Hopefully you see now why I both love and hate this game. Oh shit, I forgot to mention Royal, didn't I? Persona 5 Royal is the definitive edition of Persona 5, adding brand new gameplay and story content. So, what exactly does Royal mean? I have no clue. Same with Persona 4 Golden. At least the name Persona 3 Portable makes sense. God fucking damn it. So, what makes this version of the game definitive? New personas, a new playable character, 2 new confidants, and 1 entirely reworked confidant, a new palace with a brilliantly written antagonist, a new location with new hangout spots and minigames to unlock more buffs, a customizable theme stem where you can control any of the Phantom Thieves, new areas and mechanics in everyone's palace mementos. And as a cherry on top, anyone buying the multi-platform release will get 4K 60fps on next-gen consoles and PC, as well as all previously released DLC, which includes dozens of cosmetics and optional battles against the protagonists of Persona 4 and Persona 3. I'm not sure why Atlus loves their re-releases so much. For a JRPG that could quite possibly kill you if you tried to play the whole thing in one sitting, I'm sure most players would just rather have a fully fleshed out experience from the get-go. But if I could only give one reason why I felt justified buying Persona 5 a second time on PS4 and a third on Switch, one reason why I believe Persona 5 is worth my time at all, it would have to be Dr. Takuto Maruki. I'm not sure I can truly describe the brilliance of this character without going into major late game spoilers, but I can certainly try. Played by the late Billy Kametz, Dr. Maruki is a counselor brought to Shujin Academy after the game's first antagonist Kamoshida drove a student into attempting suicide, among other things. Maruki asks Joker to help him with his research on cognitive science with a P. Cognitive science claims that there exists an alternate world created through cognition, which the Phantom Thieves of course know to be true. As you can imagine, this concept is a recurring theme throughout Persona 5, and Maruki amps this theme up to 10. He proposes that, with the right tools, it would be possible to erase one's pain through the cognitive world. Though I'd like this video to be as spoiler-free as possible for anyone going into the game blind, I'd like to say just one thing about Persona 5 Royal's final act. Billy's brilliant performance is the driving force of the game's additional Final Palace, as it can only be unlocked by reaching rank 10 on Maruki's Confidant. As you explore this palace and face off against the final antagonist, the player will be forced to answer one question. What is a mask? The Phantom Thieves have all experienced what it feels like to be an outcast. They have all at some point been forced to hide from the world behind a mask. By ripping off their mask, they harness the power of the persona to fight back against the injustice of the world. Does this mean that a mask is merely a means to protect yourself and survive in a world that's against you? Or is the mask, the trauma associated with it, and the ability to carve your own path what make life worth living? If you had the choice, would you throw the mask away in exchange for a world that accepts you for who you are? Or are the places you've been and the people you've met through wearing the mask worth more than the trauma that hiding has caused you? These questions and the journey to answer them are what, in my honest opinion, elevate Persona 5 from a solid yet flawed JRPG with a hero complex to a masterclass of storytelling in video games. As for me, I hope to see all of you donning the mask alongside me on the 21st. Peace.